Did you know that 6 out of the 8 planets in our solar system have at least one moon? These satellites can come with some weird and peculiar features. What are some of the strangest moons ever found? Number 10. The disappearing moon Iapetus. The year was 1671, and Giovanni Cassini brought his telescope outside and gazed up at one of Saturn's moons for the first time in history. The moon Iapetus immediately showed itself to be full of mystery when it disappeared suddenly. It turned out that the moon is only visible for half of its orbit. It took another few decades before Cassini himself was able to solve the mystery of the half-invisible orbit. With the technological improvements to his telescope over the next 34 years, he was able to see that one side of the moon was more than 6 times fainter than the other, which made the moon nearly impossible to see when the dim side was facing the Earth. Number 9. Eruptions on Encelitus. In the early 2000s, NASA was sending probes out into our solar system to study all of our planetary neighbors more closely. The probe Cassini was sent to Saturn to study its moons, which led astronomers being quickly enthralled by a satellite named Encelitus, which is one of Saturn's smallest major moons, measuring just over 500 kilometers in diameter. Among the most studied objects in the solar system, this strange moon was discovered to have massive plumes of frozen water erupting out of fissures along its southern hemisphere. This told scientists that liquid water must exist just beneath the icy crust of Encelitus. Number 8. An asteroid moon. In 1995, one of NASA's probes, Galileo, was passing through our solar system's asteroid belt that sits between the planets Mars and Jupiter. While traveling through this belt, it caught something that astronomers had long thought about but were never able to find evidence for. Galileo spotted a moon orbiting the asteroid named 243 Ida that measured just over 1.6 kilometers in diameter. This small moon was given the name Dactyl and is now one of 25 known satellites orbiting around some of our solar system's largest asteroids. The origins of these strange moons remain unknown, but some astronomers have theorized that they could be caused by the dust and debris generated from collisions with smaller bodies. Number 7. Unique structure of Hyperion. Possibly the strangest looking moon in our solar system can be found orbiting Saturn and was first studied by the Cassini probe as it flew by in the early 2000s. The weird and porous surface of Hyperion looks somewhat like a sponge or some type of coral with razor-sharp ridges composed of ice and rock. One of the more popular theories as to what gave this moon its unique features contends that Hyperion is the only surviving remnant of a larger satellite that once orbited Saturn, until it was completely destroyed by a large comet colliding with it. Cassini was able to take a few readings as it flew past the moon, including its density, which showed astronomers that it is approximately 55% water with a primarily empty interior. Number 6. Pluto's partner, Heron. Although Pluto is no longer considered a planet, it still has one of the most interesting moons in our solar system, Heron. Measuring half the size of Pluto, they are often called a double dwarf planet system because of this odd mass ratio between them. The pair orbit around a central point between them rather than Charon orbiting around the center of Pluto. This moon was only discovered when the Hubble Space Telescope was able to capture images of Pluto that showed it with a more elongated form opposed to its usual spherical shape. Number 5. Small moons can have a big influence. Saturn is home to over 80 different moons, which allows many unique and strange moons to exist in orbit around the ringed planet. 2 of the smaller moons, Pan and Atlas, are responsible for several different features of the planet. Pan and Atlas are responsible for a prominent gap in the ring system that can be seen from Earth. They are shepherd moons, whose influence helps herd particles and dust that make up the planetary rings in orbit around the planet while drawing some out. Both of these moons have an odd shape, having very smooth surfaces resembling a walnut. Number 4. Europa's active core. Orbiting the largest planet in our solar system, Jupiter is home to at least 79 individual moons, including some of the largest moons in our solar system. One of these moons, Europa, has intrigued astronomers since they first began to study it. The surface of Europa is extremely smooth, smoother than a cue ball, and is made up of a nearly 100-kilometer thick surface with veins of some red material running throughout. In 2013, NASA was able to discover that there was icy water erupting from Europa's surface, blasting high into space. This is a telltale sign that the core of this moon may be geologically active, which means the massive ocean sitting below the surface may contain thermal vents that could provide the necessary nutrients to allow organisms to survive and thrive. Number 3. The odd pair of Naiad and Thalassa. Two of Neptune's 14 moons, Naiad and Thalassa, were detected exhibiting some very strange behavior. They were locked in what NASA researchers called a dance of avoidance. Naiad's orbit is tilted when compared to Thalassa, which causes Naiad to spend half of its orbit above and half of it below Thalassa. When their path is mapped out, a repeating wave pattern which is referred to as resonance. Astronomers have discovered many different orbits that celestial objects can take, but this particular pattern of orbit has never been seen before. The two moons orbit Neptune only 1,850 kilometers apart from each other, but their dance seems to be timed perfectly so that they always avoid each other. Number 2. Mars's mysterious moons. The weird and wacky moons of our solar system are not only found in the outer planets. Mars happens to be home to two of its own odd moons. Named Phobos and Deimos, these Martian moons both have a clean, tight orbit around the planet's equator. Phobos is an extremely lumpy mass that measures over 27 kilometers across, while Deimos measures around 14.5 kilometers. The fact that Mars is only 1/10 of Earth's mass means that it has a weak gravitational pull that makes it extremely improbable for the planet to be able to capture an asteroid flying by and holding it in orbit. The oddly perfect orbits of Phobos and Deimos, along with their shapes and sizes, has led astronomers to believe they could have been formed when the young red planet had a planetary disk of dust and debris that eventually coalesced into the two masses we see today. Number 1. The atmosphere on Titan. We would not be able to talk about the strange and shocking moons of our solar system without mentioning Saturn's largest satellite, Titan. This moon is only 2% smaller than the largest moon in our solar system, Jupiter's Ganymede, and is the only moon that has been discovered with one particular feature: an atmosphere. The space around Titan is filled with a thick atmosphere that is thick enough to completely obscure the solid core of the moon with massive clouds of nitrogen and methane. Recent studies into this atmosphere have concluded that the sun's UV radiation initiates some type of reaction between the two gases present that produce a variety of organic molecules that can be detected in Titan's atmosphere. The Cassini probe was able to detect rivers and lakes of liquid ethane and methane scattered across its surface. Astronomers are eager to get back to this strange satellite with the hope of finding the building blocks of life present. What are some of your favorite strange objects found in the universe? Thanks for watching. See you next time on Matter.